The message came at midnight. Kang Doham was sitting alone in his small room on Orbital Station 12 when his computer made a sound. He looked at the screen and saw the symbol of the Galactic Council. This was strange. The Council never contacted humans directly. They thought humans were too young, too weak, and too unimportant. Dohan opened the message. It was a request to meet Ambassador Quillix in 1 hour. No explanation, just a time and a place. He put on his jacket and walked through the quiet halls of the station. Most species were sleeping at this hour. The lights were dim and the air was cold. Dohan liked it this way. It reminded him of winter mornings back on Earth, when he would walk through empty streets before the sun came up. The meeting room was at the center of the station. When Dohan arrived, he found Ambassador Quillix waiting for him. Quillix was tall, almost 3 meters, with a body like a giant insect. His eyes were black and shiny, and his voice made a clicking sound when he spoke. "Thank you for coming, human," Quillix said. "Please sit." Dohan sat down. He noticed that Quillix was not alone. In the corner of the room stood a small creature with wet skin and big round eyes. This was Brillo, an amphibian from the water world of Tessara. Brillo worked as a translator on the station, but tonight he looked nervous. His hands were shaking. "I will be direct," Quillix said. 3 days ago, a prison transport crashed on Vareth Prime. The ship was carrying 17 diplomats from 7 different species. They are important people. The Council wants them back. Dohan nodded slowly. "And the problem?" "The ship crashed in a region called the Obsidian Wilds. Do you know what lives there?" "Dravix," Dohan said. Brillo made a small sound of fear. Quillix's black eyes seemed to grow darker. "Yes, Dravix, the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy. They are fast, strong, and intelligent. But that is not what makes them deadly." Quillix paused. Dravix hunt by sensing fear. Every living creature in the galaxy produces fear chemicals when it is scared. The Dravix can smell these chemicals from great distances. Fear calls them. Fear excites them. And when they find the source of the fear, they kill it, slowly. Dohan said nothing. He just listened. "We have sent 4 rescue teams into the Obsidian Wilds," Quillix continued. None of them returned. The Dravix found them within hours. We watched through their cameras as they were torn apart. 63 soldiers died, human. 63 of our best warriors from the strongest species in the Union. All dead. "So you stopped sending teams," Dohan said. "We had no choice. No species in the Galactic Union can enter the Obsidian Wilds and survive. The moment they feel fear, the Dravix come. And everyone feels fear. It is impossible not to." Quillix leaned forward. "Everyone except humans." The room became very quiet. Dohan understood now. He had read about this in his studies. Humans were strange among the galaxy's species. They felt fear, yes, but their bodies did not produce the same chemicals that other species did. To a Dravix senses, a calm human would be almost invisible. "You want me to go into the wilds," Dohan said. "Alone. We are asking, not ordering. We know this is dangerous. We know we have no right to ask a human to risk his life for species that have ignored your kind for centuries. But those 17 diplomats will die if no one helps them. Their food is running out. Their water is almost gone. In 5 days, they will be dead." Dohan thought about this. He thought about the Dravix, 6-legged monsters with fangs like knives. He thought about the 63 soldiers who had died screaming in the dark forest of Velrith Prime. He thought about 17 strangers trapped in a broken ship, waiting for a rescue that would never come. Then he smiled. Brillo made a choking sound. The little amphibian's eyes went wide, and he pressed himself against the wall as if Dohan had suddenly become something dangerous. "Why are you smiling?" Quillix asked. His voice was careful, like someone talking to a wild animal. I was just thinking, Dohan said. I have spent my whole career studying alien creatures. Draviks are the most interesting predators in the galaxy. I have always wanted to see one up close. He stood up from his chair. I will do it. When do I leave? Quillix did not move for a long moment. Then he said, You understand what you are agreeing to? The Draviks have killed everything that has ever entered their territory. Every species. Every soldier. Every ship. You will be walking into a place where death waits behind every tree. I understand. And you are not afraid? Dalhan considered the question. I am afraid, he said honestly. But on Earth, we have a saying. Fear is just information. It tells you that something is dangerous. It does not tell you what to do about it. That choice is yours. He walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at the two aliens. Quillix was standing perfectly still, like a statue. Brillo was trembling so badly that water was dripping from his skin. Back on Earth, Dohan said, my ancestors lived beside wolves. The wolves were dangerous. They could kill a human easily. But my ancestors did not run from them. They studied them. They learned their ways. And eventually, they turned wolves into dogs, into friends. He smiled again, that strange human smile that made aliens so uncomfortable. Maybe I will make friends with the Draviks too. He left the room before they could respond. Behind him, Brillo turned to Quillix with wild eyes. He is insane, the amphibian whispered. The human is completely insane. Quillix said nothing. He was still staring at the door where Dohan had disappeared. In all his years as an ambassador, he had met thousands of species from across the galaxy. He had seen warriors and cowards, geniuses and fools. But he had never seen anything like this. A creature that looked at death and smiled. A creature that heard about monsters and felt curiosity instead of terror. Quillix did not know if Dohan would survive the obsidian wilds, but for the first time since the crash, he felt something that surprised him. He felt hope. The human ship left the station at dawn. Dohan watched through the window as the stars stretched into lines of light. Somewhere ahead, on a planet covered in black forests, 17 people were waiting to be saved. And somewhere in those forests, the Draviks were waiting too. Dohan closed his eyes and smiled. This was going to be interesting. The dropship cut through the clouds of Velroth Prime like a knife through water. Dohan sat in his seat and watched the world appear below him. The planet was beautiful in a dark way. Mountains rose like black teeth against a purple sky. Rivers of silver light moved through valleys filled with mist. And everywhere, covering everything, were the forests of the obsidian wilds. The trees were not green like earth trees. They were black, with bark that looked like glass and leaves that glowed with soft blue light. The forests stretched in every direction, endless and ancient. Somewhere down there, hidden in that darkness, the Draviks were waiting. We land in 10 minutes. Dohan to look at the speaker. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and serious eyes. Her uniform showed her name, Park Yuna. She was the communications officer who had volunteered for this mission at the last moment. You did not have to come, Dohan said. Yuna kept her eyes on the controls. I know. The council only asked for one person. I could do this alone. I know that too. She finally looked at him. But I wanted to come. I have read about humans all my life. Stories about your history, your wars, your explorers. I was born on this station, raised by aliens. I have never been to Earth. I have never met another human until now. She paused. I wanted to see if the stories were true. Dohan smiled. What stories? That humans are crazy. that you laugh at danger, that you walk into death with your eyes open and your heart calm. She turned back to the controls. I want to learn how to do that. The ship landed at the edge of the wilds. The door opened and the air of Volrath Prime rushed in. It smelled strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. The ground was soft and covered with blue moss that left glowing marks wherever they stepped. Doan checked his equipment. He carried a small bag with food, water, medicine, and a communication device. No weapons. Weapons would not help against Dravix. If a pack of Dravix wanted to kill you, no gun in the galaxy could stop them. The crash site is 40 kilometers north, Una said, looking at her map. If we walk fast, we can reach it in 2 days. We will not walk fast, Dohan said. We will walk slowly, calmly, like we are taking a pleasant walk through a garden. Una stared at him. There are monsters in this forest. Yes, and those monsters hunt fear. If we rush, if we panic, if we act like prey, they will treat us like prey. But if we move like we belong here, like we are not afraid, they might leave us alone. He started walking toward the tree line. Come, let us enjoy the view. They walked into the obsidian wilds. The forest was quiet at first. The only sounds were their footsteps and the soft whisper of wind through glowing leaves. Light came from everywhere, blue and silver, making the shadows dance. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. After several hours, Una started talking. She asked Dohan questions about Earth, about humans, about why they were so different from other species. Dohan answered in his calm, quiet voice. On Earth, he said, we were never the strongest animals. Lions were stronger. Bears were bigger. Eagles could fly and sharks could swim faster than any human. We had no claws, no fangs, no armor. We were soft and slow and weak. Then how did humans survive? We were clever. And we were stubborn. When other animals saw a predator, they ran. Humans looked at predators and thought, I wonder how I can use that. We did not run from wolves. We studied them. We learned their ways. We gave them food and shelter. And slowly, over thousands of years, wolves became dogs. Our friends. Our protectors. Una thought about this. You made friends with predators. We made friends with everything. Horses that could crush us with their hooves. Elephants that could kill us with one step. Hawks that could tear out our eyes. We looked at every dangerous creature and thought the same thing. Maybe this does not have to be my enemy. Maybe this could be my friend. The sun began to set. The blue glow of the forest grew brighter as darkness fell. Dohan found a small clearing and told Una they would camp here for the night. Should we make a fire? Una asked. No. Fire creates light and smoke. It tells everyone where we are. We will sleep in the dark, quiet and still. They ate a small meal and lay down on the soft moss. The forest was alive with sounds now. Clicks and whistles and deep rumbling calls that seemed to come from very far away. Una could not sleep. Her heart was beating too fast, and she heard something closer. Something moving through the trees. She sat up slowly. Her hand moved toward her weapon. Do not, Dohan said softly. He was awake too, lying on his back with his eyes open. Look, but do not move. Una looked. They were surrounded. The Dravix had come silently, like shadows made solid. There were at least 20 of them, forming a circle around the clearing. They were huge, each one the size of a small vehicle, with 6 legs and bodies covered in black scales. Their eyes glowed red in the darkness, 6 eyes on each head, all of them fixed on the 2 humans. Una's whole body went cold. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. Every part of her brain was shouting that she was about to die, but she did not move. She watched Dawn instead. The human sat up slowly. He did not reach for any weapon. He did not try to hide. He just sat there in the middle of the clearing, surrounded by monsters, and looked at them with calm curiosity. One Dravik moved closer. It was bigger than the others, with scars on its face and one eye that did not glow. The Alpha, the leader. It walked toward Dohan on 6 silent legs, its mouth opening to show rows of teeth like broken glass. Dohan did not move. The Dravik stopped just 2 meters away. It lowered its massive head and stared at the human. For a long moment, nothing happened. The forest held its breath. The other Draviks watched and waited. Then the Alpha made a strange sound. It was almost like a question. It tilted its head to the side, the way a confused dog might. Dohan smiled. The Alpha stared at him for another long moment. Then it turned and walked away. The other Draviks followed, disappearing into the darkness like they had never been there at all. Yuna was shaking so badly she could barely speak. What? What just happened? Dohan lay back down on the moss. They have never met anything that was not afraid of them. We confuse them. They do not know what to do with us. He closed his eyes. Get some sleep. We have a long walk tomorrow. Yuna did not sleep that night. She lay awake and watched the human beside her. This strange creature who smiled at monsters. The stories were true, she realized. Humans really were crazy. They walked for 2 more days through the obsidian wilds. The Draviks followed them the entire time. Yuna could feel them in the darkness, watching from behind the black trees, keeping pace with their slow human steps. But the creatures never attacked. They only watched. On the morning of the 3rd day, they found the crash site. The ship had torn a long wound through the forest. Trees lay broken and burned on both sides of a deep trench in the earth. At the end of the trench sat what remained of the transport vessel. It was a large ship built to carry important people across the stars. Now it was just a broken shell of metal, half buried in black soil. There, Yuna said, pointing at the cargo hold at the back of the ship. Lights flickered behind the small windows. They are in there. They walked toward the ship. As they got closer, a voice came through a speaker near the door. Stop. Do not come any closer. Identify yourselves. Dohan stopped and raised his hands. My name is Kang Dawn. I am a human from Orbital Station 12. The Galactic Council sent me to rescue you. There was a long silence. Then the voice returned, filled with disbelief. 1 human? They sent 1 human? 2 humans, Yuna said. I came too. Another silence. Then, slowly, the cargo door began to open. The smell hit them first. It was the smell of fear, thick and sour, filling the air like smoke. Inside the cargo hold, 17 beings sat in the darkness. They came from 7 different species. Some were tall and thin, others short and round. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin like leather or stone. All of them looked the same way. Starving, exhausted, and terrified, an old creature stood up from the group. He was an avian, with feathers of gray and gold and a sharp beak curved like a hook. His name was Tessic, and he was the senior diplomat among the survivors. His feathers were dirty and broken, but his eyes still held authority. How? Tessic demanded. His voice cracked as he spoke. How did you cross the wilds? The Draviks kill everything. We watched 4 rescue teams die. We heard their screams through the radio. How is it possible that you walked here alive? Dohan stepped into the cargo hold. The survivors moved away from him, pressing themselves against the walls. They looked at him like he was a ghost, something that should not exist. I walked slowly, Dohan said simply. I did not run. I did not hide. I did not act like prey. Tessic shook his head. That is impossible. The Draviks hunt by instinct. They attack anything that moves. No, they hunt by fear. Their whole existence is built around the thrill of chasing terrified prey. It excites them. It satisfies them. But when they meet something that is not afraid, Doan shrugged. I think it confuses them. They do not know what to do with a creature that does not run. The small creature near the back spoke up. He was a young being with big eyes and trembling hands, barely more than a child. Are you saying the Dravix did not attack you because you were not scared? I was scared, Doan said. I am still scared. Fear is natural, but I chose not to let it control me. There is a difference between fear and letting fear make your choices. The survivors looked at each other. This made no sense to them. Every species in the galaxy ran from Dravix. Every species hid and cried and begged for their lives. The idea that someone could simply choose not to be controlled by fear was like saying someone could choose not to feel pain. It seemed impossible. Una stepped forward. We need to talk about getting you out of here. Do you have communication with the rescue ship? Tessic nodded slowly. Yes, a ship is waiting in orbit, but they cannot land. There are too many Dravix in the area. The moment the ship comes down, they will swarm it. We would have a few minutes at most before they attacked. How many Dravix? Doan asked. At last count, over 100. They have been gathering since the crash. I think they can smell our fear from kilometers away. We have been attracting them like a signal fire. Dohan walked to one of the small windows and looked out at the forest. He could see shapes moving between the trees, red eyes glowing in the shadows. The Dravix were everywhere, circling the crash site, waiting for someone to make a mistake. 100 Dravix, he said quietly, all hunting by fear. Una moved to stand beside him. What are you thinking? Dohan was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to face the survivors. I have a plan, but you are not going to like it. Tessic made a bitter sound. We are trapped in a broken ship, surrounded by monsters, slowly dying of hunger and thirst. What could you possibly suggest that would be worse than this? I am going to walk out into the forest, Dohan said. The Dravix will follow me. They are curious about me. They have been following us for 3 days, trying to understand what I am. When I leave the crash site, they will come with me. He looked at Una. Both of us. We will lead them away while you escape. The cargo hold went completely silent. Then Tessic spoke, his voice barely a whisper. You would walk into the hunting grounds of 100 Dravix, willingly, to save people you have never met. Yes, that is suicide. Maybe. Doan smiled. That strange human smile that made everyone uncomfortable. Or maybe it is something the Dravix have never seen before. Maybe it is something that will confuse them so much they forget to kill us. Una touched his arm. I am coming with you. Doan shook his head. No, this is too dangerous. You should stay here and help with the evacuation. I did not come to this planet to hide in a cargo hold. Her voice was firm, stronger than it had been 3 days ago. I came to learn how to be brave. I came to see what humans really are. If you walk out there alone, I will never forgive myself. They looked at each other for a long moment. Finally, Dohan nodded. Then we walked together. Tessic watched them with eyes full of wonder and horror. In all his long life, he had never seen anything like this. Two soft, fragile humans, preparing to walk into death with calm faces and steady hearts. Why? He asked. Why would you do this for strangers? Dohan thought about the question. Then he said, because someone has to. And because I can. He walked to the cargo door and looked out at the dark forest. Tell the rescue ship to be ready. When the Dravix follow us, you run. Do not stop. Do not look back. Just run. He stepped out into the obsidian wilds. Una followed. Behind them, 17 survivors watched in stunned silence as two humans walked calmly toward the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. None of them believed they would ever see those humans again. The forest was alive with eyes. Dohan walked at a slow, steady pace, his footsteps soft on the glowing moss. Beside him, Yuna matched his rhythm, breathing deep and slow like he had taught her. Behind them, around them, everywhere they looked, the Draviks moved through the shadows. There were more than 100 now. Yuna had stopped counting after she reached 80. They slipped between the black trees like water, their 6 legs moving in perfect silence, their red eyes never blinking. Some were small, barely bigger than dogs. Others were huge monsters the size of shuttles with teeth that could bite through metal. And all of them were following the two humans. They are getting closer. Yuna whispered, I know. There are so many. I know. Dohan, I am scared. He looked at her. Her face was pale and sweat ran down her forehead, but her steps did not falter. She kept walking, kept breathing, kept moving forward even though every part of her wanted to run. Good, Dohan said. That means you are still alive. Fear is not the enemy, Yuna. Fear is just your body trying to protect you. The trick is to listen to it without obeying it. They walked deeper into the forest. The crash site disappeared behind them. Somewhere back there, the survivors would be preparing to run. Somewhere up in the sky, the rescue ship would be warming its engines. All they had to do was keep the Draviks busy long enough. All they had to do was not die. A large Dravik moved onto the path ahead of them. It was one of the biggest Yuna had seen, with a body covered in scars and one broken horn. It stood directly in their way, blocking the path, its mouth opening to show rows of jagged teeth. Dohan did not stop. He did not slow down. He walked straight toward the monster like it was not there. The Dravik did not move. It stood its ground, growling low in its throat, waiting for the human to show fear. Dohan kept walking. 5 meters. 3 meters. 2 meters. At the last moment, the Dravik stepped aside. It moved off the path and watched with confused eyes as the human passed by close enough to touch. Yuna followed, her heart pounding so loud she was sure the creatures could hear it. Why did it move? She asked when they were past. Because it expected me to stop. When I did not stop, it did not know what to do. Predators react to behavior. If you act like prey, you become prey. If you act like something else, he smiled slightly, they have to figure out what you are first. They walked for hours. The Draviks followed, always watching, always testing. Sometimes they would run toward the humans in sudden charges, their claws tearing up the ground. Every time, Dohan would stop and face them calmly. Every time, they would halt at the last moment, confused and frustrated. But they were getting bolder, closer, more aggressive. The sun began to set. The blue glow of the forest grew brighter, casting strange shadows everywhere. Dohan found a small hill covered in soft moss and sat down. We rest here, he said. Yuna sat beside him. Her legs were shaking from exhaustion and fear. Can we really rest? With all of them watching? We have no choice. If we keep walking, we will collapse. If we collapse, we become weak. Weakness is what they are waiting for. He lay back on the moss and closed his eyes. Try to sleep. I will keep watch. How can you sleep at a time like this? Dohan opened one eye and looked at her. I spent 3 years working on a research station above a black hole. The station shook every time it adjusted orbit. Every night, I fell asleep wondering if I would wake up or if I would be pulled into endless darkness. He closed his eye again. Compared to that, this is peaceful. Yuna did not understand how anyone could find this peaceful. But she lay down anyway, too tired to argue. Sleep came eventually, thin and restless, filled with dreams of red eyes and sharp teeth. She woke to find Dawn sitting up, completely still. "Do not move," he whispered. She looked. The Alpha Dravik was right beside them. It was the same one from before. The old scarred creature with 6 red eyes and a body like a nightmare. It had moved silently during the night, crossing the clearing without making a sound. Now it stood less than a meter away, its massive head lowered, its breath warm against Dohan's face. Yuna's hand moved toward her weapon. "No," Dohan said softly. "Wait." The Alpha stared at him. Its eyes moved slowly, studying his face, his body, his calm expression. A low sound came from its throat, not a growl but something else. Something almost curious. Dahan raised his hand slowly, very slowly. The Alpha watched but did not move. Dahan reached out until his fingers were centimeters from the creature's face. Then he touched it. His hand rested on the Alpha's scarred muzzle, gentle and light. The Dravik went completely still. For a long moment, nothing happened. The forest held its breath. The other Draviks watched from the shadows, silent and frozen. Then the Alpha lowered itself to the ground. It lay down beside Dahan like a dog, settling next to its owner. Its eyes closed. Its breathing slowed. The most dangerous predator on the planet curled up next to a human and went to sleep. Yuna could not believe what she was seeing. Tears ran down her face without her realizing it. "How?" she whispered. "How is this possible?" Dahan kept his hand on the creature's head. Everything wants to understand what it does not know. Everything wants connection, even monsters. The Draviks have spent their whole existence hunting fear. They have never met anything that was not afraid of them. They have never met anything that reached out to them in kindness. He looked at her with soft eyes. "On Earth, we have a saying. There are no monsters, only creatures we do not understand yet." The other Draviks began to move closer. Not to attack, just to watch. To see this strange thing that was happening. One by one, they settled onto the ground around the 2 humans, forming a circle of teeth and claws and red eyes. But none of them attacked. They only watched. And waited. And wondered what these strange creatures were. Far behind them, the rescue ship descended on the crash site. 17 survivors ran through the empty forest and climbed aboard. The ship rose into the sky and disappeared into the stars. None of the Draviks noticed. They were too busy watching. The 2 humans who had walked into their world. Without fear. The humans who had changed everything. The video spread across the galaxy like fire. Someone on the rescue ship had recorded everything. The cameras showed the 17 survivors running through an empty forest while every Dravik on the planet ignored them. The cameras showed Dahan and Yuna sitting calmly in a clearing, surrounded by over 100 apex predators. The cameras showed the Alpha Dravik lying beside a human like a loyal pet. Within hours, the video had been watched by billions. Within days, it had been watched by trillions. Every species in the Galactic Union saw the footage. Every child, every elder, every soldier and scientist and diplomat watched in disbelief as 2 soft humans walked among monsters and lived. No one could explain it. No one could understand it. The Draviks were supposed to be unstoppable. They were supposed to be death itself, made flesh and scale and teeth. And yet 2 humans had walked through their hunting grounds like they were taking a morning stroll. The questions came, flooding in. How did the humans survive? What secret did they know? Were they immune to Dravik attacks? Did they have some hidden technology? None of these questions had the right answer. The truth was simpler and stranger than any technology. The humans had survived because they refused to be afraid. And that simple refusal had changed everything. 3 weeks after the rescue, the Galactic Council held a ceremony on Orbital Station 12. It was the largest gathering in the station's history. Representatives from every major species came to watch. Reporters from 1,000 worlds pointed their cameras at the stage. Everyone wanted to see the humans who had walked with monsters. Dohun and Yuna stood on the stage, looking uncomfortable in their formal uniforms. They were not used to attention. They were not used to being called heroes. They were just two people who had done what needed to be done. Ambassador Quillix approached them with a ceremonial medal in his hand. The medal was made of crystal and light, the highest honor the Galactic Council could give. Quillix's insect eyes were unreadable, but his voice carried deep respect. "Kang Don," he said. "Bark Yuna, on behalf of the Galactic Council and the 17 lives you saved, we thank you. Your actions on Vorath Prime have shown us something we never expected to see. You have shown us that the impossible is possible. You have shown us that the deadliest creatures in the galaxy can be faced without weapons, without armies, without anything but courage and calm." He paused. The whole station was silent. "I must ask you a question," Quillix continued. "The whole galaxy wants to know the answer. How did you do it? How did you face the Dravix and feel nothing?" Dohan looked at the crowd. He saw thousands of eyes looking back at him. Eyes filled with wonder, with fear, with desperate hope. They wanted him to say that he was special. They wanted him to say that humans were different, better, stronger in some magical way. But that was not the truth. "I felt everything," Doan said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the silent hall. "When I walked into the Obsidian Wilds, my heart was pounding. When the Dravix surrounded me, my hands were shaking. When the Alpha stood in front of me, every part of my body was screaming at me to run." The crowd stirred. This was not what they expected. "Humans are not fearless," Dohan continued. "We are afraid of everything. We are afraid of the dark, of heights, of deep water, of dangerous animals. We have been afraid since the beginning of our existence. Fear kept us alive when we were weak and small, hiding from predators on a dangerous planet." He paused and looked at Yuna. She nodded for him to continue. "But somewhere along the way, we learned something important. Fear is not our master. Fear is just a feeling, like hunger or cold or pain. It tells us that something is dangerous, but it does not control what we do next. That choice is ours, always." He looked back at the crowd. "The difference between humans and other species is not that we feel less fear. The difference is that we have learned to feel fear and move forward anyway." A soft murmur ran through the crowd. This was a strange idea, uncomfortable, challenging. The galaxy had always believed that courage meant the absence of fear. Now a human was telling them that true courage was something else entirely. Yuna stepped forward. She had been quiet through most of the ceremony, but now she wanted to speak. "On Earth," she said, "there is an old saying. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is deciding that something else is more important than your fear." She looked at Dahan with respect in her eyes. For Dahan, that something was 17 lives. For me, it was the chance to become someone I could be proud of. She turned back to the crowd. "I was born on this station. I was raised by aliens who told me that humans were strange and confusing and impossible to understand. I spent my whole life feeling like I did not belong anywhere. When I volunteered for this mission, I did not know if I would survive. I only knew that I wanted to find out what it really meant to be human." Tears were forming in her eyes, but she did not stop. "Now I know. Being human means being afraid and going forward anyway. It means looking at something terrible and choosing to face it. It means caring about others more than you care about your own safety." She smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her whole face. "I am proud to be human. I am proud to have walked with monsters and lived." The ceremony ended. The medals were given. The speeches were made. But the real change happened later, in the quiet conversations that spread across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans began to pay attention. Warriors who thought courage meant fighting began to question their beliefs. Children who had been taught to run from danger began to wonder if there was another way. And on Volrith Prime, in the heart of the Obsidian Wilds, something strange was happening. The Draveks had changed. Ships that flew over the forest reported seeing the creatures behaving differently. They were less aggressive, less violent. Some of them would sit at the edge of the trees and watch the sky, as if waiting for something. Scientists believed they were waiting for the humans to return. They were waiting for the strange creatures who had walked among them without fear. Dawn and Yuna never went back to Volrith Prime. They went on to other missions, other adventures, other impossible things. But the legend of what they did spread across the stars. The legend of two humans who walked into death and smiled. The legend that taught the galaxy a new definition of courage. They did not conquer their fear. They made it irrelevant. And in doing so, they changed the universe forever.